Maximum Health with your host, Dr. Ken Gray. Dr. Gray obtained his master's in both acupuncture and Oriental medicine from the Atlantic Institute of Oriental Medicine. Dr. Gray enjoys both being a physician as well as being an educator. His unique approach to holistic healing has taken him abroad to lecture in Germany and treat sports professionals in Hawaii and France. He is co-author of several books on food therapy. His office is in Jupiter, Florida, where he has practiced for over a decade and where he resides. Now it's time for Maximum Health with Dr. Ken Gray.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Maximum Health Radio, Quality Living with yours truly, Dr. Ken Gray, holistic physician. Thank you for joining us every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard, 88.9 FM, WQCS, that is National Public Radio, NPR, involving the VoLo Foundation, which we have Thais Lopez Vogel, co-founder of the VoLo Foundation. She's a stunning, amazing, smart, brilliant woman with a background in law.
Yes.
So you're an attorney by trade.
Yes.
And you have been helping this amazing foundation to make a world presence. And thankfully, it's happening because we need you. We need what you're doing, which is data-driven research on, well, global warming, for one, and also sea level rising, which are intertwined. I wanted to do this show, and I was excited to do it, and excited that our sort of paths crossed the way it has at the time it has. Because believe it or not, with the shows I've had in the past with NASA involved, and other researchers and other science-based organizations, I've gotten a little bit of a few emails and things regarding, you're being alarmist. There's this term alarmist is out there for people that want other people to believe that sea level rising and global warming is fiction. And obviously we have people high up in the political chain, which we will not even get into names.
But we know who they are.
who have stated the same thing and led others to believe this, but then they've gone back and forth. So there is a reality. There is real science behind the fact that we need to be concerned. We need to change our ways. We need to be aware. And what I love about the show is not that it's just about these theories. It's about real data-driven research. Creating positive change.
Yes.
Because there's nothing wrong with being environmentally conscious. Exactly. So no matter who you are, what you believe, what your political affiliations, there's nothing wrong with us as human beings being better stewards of this earth.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
The data is alarming, but there is hope.
Right.
And there is solutions, and we all can work towards them.
Yes.
So I'm here just to educate a little bit the public out there and to share our findings at VoLo and to let you know that it can be done.
All right, so let's talk about this data-driven research leading us to positive solutions. We are not alarmists. We are here to help. And you have been doing this on a worldwide scale.
Yes, we're not only in the United States, we're worldwide. We help everywhere. We have organizations in India, Nicaragua, Ethiopia, everywhere. Yeah. Global warming is a problem that is critical. Yes. I want to say is paramount. We have to pay attention, and not only here. Yes. If we see the news every day, things are happening everywhere.
Right.
It's not only in California with the wildfires, it's in Florida with the hurricanes, but it's also in Paris. It's also in Paris with the Seine River. I don't know if you saw the news.
No.
Early this year, in January, Paris was underwater. The Seine River rose record-breaking levels after a lot of rain there. And the same time, Cape Town was counting down to day zero. And day zero is a term referring to the day when the entire major city was going to run out of water. So they had to. So it's happening everywhere.
So we have Paris, that's Europe, and then we have all the way Cape Town. So we're talking about Africa.
And then we're sitting here right now, Dr. Ken, and there are island countries sinking. Yeah. Marshall Island, Maldives, Jakarta, those are places that at the moment are sinking. And you know what's going to happen? People that live there have to move somewhere. So what happens there? Immigration. So there are problems that we have to realize that the problems that the people think are the most important, like immigration is trending right now, economy, those are all influenced by climate change.
Well, yeah, of course, because, when you think of just the amount of hurricanes from last year, and thank God we, at least in this area of the world, have been without those sort of natural disasters. Billions, upwards of, I think, combined in the trillions, were spent because of these natural disasters, which are occurring because of increased, changes in, I guess, temperature. Through your organization, I learned through some of the research I was reading, the increased change of temperatures around the time of year last year was predicting the increase of the hurricane occurrences.
I think any meteorologist can tell you the hotter the water, the intensity is going to be higher. Yeah. So, yes, it is. And as far as the numbers, we have a slide that I think is on your website. Katrina in 2005, the cost of Katrina, $161 billion. That's with a B. Harvey, 2017, $125 billion. Maria, 2017, again, $90 billion. And that is also over time. It's not only when it happened, but the cost of recovery.
Sure.
Okay. We have Sandy, we have Irma. I mean, the cost of climate change we have in our website, VoLoFoundation.org. There is a video my husband made, and it's called Cost of Climate Change. If you want to review it, you'll see how economy is impacted by all these climate issues.
The argument, besides whether there is or is not climate change, or whether there is or is not sea level rising, is not the only argument. There's a distinct argument as to whether or not this change is grown in almost the speed and the intensity in the last few years because of industry, CO2 in the air, all of these sort of man-made occurrences, whether or not it is increased. And is not going at the steady pace that it has since the beginning of time, for instance. So where is this data going to take us in that level? Is there a serious change that we are exponentially seeing faster, global warming, faster sea level rising, to the level of alarming rates that we really need to be concerned about, that, hey, we can actually make change?
I am certain, and the math doesn't lie. My husband will tell you he is an MIT graduate. He does predictive modeling, and what that does is he gets historical information and predict outcomes. Dave is a person that if you don't show him the data, he's not going to believe what you say. Without data, you're just someone with an opinion.
Right.
So we saw the data, he analyzed it, and there is a link on our website, again, is a tab on your right-hand side, is a menu tab called Research, where people can easily find the math that shows how human-related activities are responsible for the increase in carbon in the atmosphere. It's called Mathematical Equation of Climate Change. From there is an easy calculation. You see how more CO2 traps the heat from the sun and warms the planet. I mean, when you talk about deniers, you have to talk about the great organizations, top-tier organizations out there, like NASA, NOAA, EPA. Those are institutions and publications like Nature Journal. These are people that know what they're doing, and they're telling you this is happening right now. Not only that, climate change is not new. This goes 200 years ago, and it's undisputable. This goes from when scientists wanted to know why the Earth and the Moon, being the same distance from the Sun, had different temperatures. The Moon is -3 degrees Fahrenheit. The Earth is 59 degrees Fahrenheit. And the reason was because of greenhouse gases. So greenhouse gases, CO2 is good on a natural amount. The natural amount is 2 trillion tons. You know what amount we have right now?
How much?
3 trillion tons.
Wow.
And 3 trillion tons started raising rapidly since mid-1800s, which is the time that industrialization, fossil fuels, and humans started using it. So CO2 in the natural state is not that bad. But that extra 1 trillion is completely attributed to man-made in the use of fossil fuel.
So this exponential change that's growing every day, the data that you're gathering to show us this, how do you gather it? Where is it coming from besides NASA?
Well, this is public.
Knowledge.
The energy industry.
Okay.
What it does, and I can tell you kind of like the equation. You have the fossil fuel emissions. They have increased to these 3 trillion tons. We constantly measure the amount of carbon on the atmosphere, and you look at the published energy reports, and they tell you that 5.5 trillion tons of coal are burned yearly. And 35 billion barrels of oil are used yearly. And an average of 275 pounds per barrel, you just multiply, add it up, and you can account that extra trillion tons to fossil consumption.
So you're taking this data from different resources, you're funneling into one sort of, let's say, resource that the public can now get through your foundation.
Anybody can gather, and not only through the foundation, through all the public energy industry.
But you're making it easy for people to go to one resource and now receive all of this information in a nice package.
We just receive it. My husband's analyzed it.
Got it.
He is a data-driven person.
Got it.
He analyzes it. He won't believe what you said. He has to see it. And he adds, multiply, and divide. This is basic chemistry. This is what you and I learn in high school. So
that's something we didn't think was necessary until this point, because you could kind of go on the internet and you have your forums and you have your different, like you said, NASA. But not everyone can connect with NASA data or connect with certain scientific forums, because they may not speak that language per se.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
That scientific.
What we wanted was to
language.
make it easy for your listeners, for the audience, to just go on our website, click the mathematical equation, and see 2 + 2 is 4.
Right, and
keep
abreast with what's going on a global level. So you have different programs. Your foundation is now bringing these programs to different places in the world, and they have these different titles I was looking at on your website. Obviously, your mission, first off, is to accelerate change and global impact by supporting science-based climate solutions, enhancing education, and improving health. Now, you're doing this in different places of the world, and you said you also are collecting data from different places in the world. But the programs of affecting change, let's talk about that. In regards to these programs, you have ones like Amplio, an organization that works with UNICEF, World Health Organization, and many other partners to bring knowledge and new skills to inhabitants of remote areas of underdeveloped countries, such as Africa and such. You have other ones called WWF and not the World Wrestling Federation.
No.
But you do have, it's the World Wildlife Fund. And tell us about that one.
We have great partners with big organizations and small organizations. In the big scale, we have WWF, EDF, and RDC. One great project with WWF is we VoLo and WWF reached an agreement with the government of Colombia to protect 49.5 million acres of natural areas. Everybody knows deforestation is one of the reason of climate change. So when you control the deforestation, our research showed that 231 million fewer, and you have to pay attention to the fewer tons of carbon were emitted just by securing those trees, just because you have less industrialized factories there. So this is a great program. I'm pretty proud. It's in Colombia. I'm from Venezuela, so we're here. MIT and NRDC are big ones too, and they involve the hydrofluorocarbons, commonly known as HFCs. These are the ones that emit your air conditioning, your appliances, and we need to switch to sustainable solutions so these emissions don't increase. On the small scale, we have Lonnie Thompson. You have a beautiful, incredible video we sent you. It's in Peru. Lonnie and his wife, they're globally recognized for drilling and analyzing the ice cores on the CO2 gets trapped in the ice cores, and they analyze it, and they have shown that in the last 80 years, since, of course, again, the dawn of the industrial era, the carbon rate in the atmosphere has only increased. and thereby the average temperatures also increase. So these are just a few of the organizations we work with. I'm sorry, I cannot name them all because of time.
That's
we
plenty.
have like 20 organizations, and we love them all, and we're so grateful that
they're
they partner
huge
with
organizations.
us.
They're well respected, and that's a lot. The research that goes into all of this obviously is to point people in a specific direction of awareness, and then how we can change things. One of the biggest videos to air had a lot to do with the cattle and the raising of beef and how that really contributes to CO2. So when CO2 rise. So when you think of obviously big oil and big companies and all this, it's easy to point the finger there. But then you have the whole cattle industry, which was something that surprised a lot of people.
Listen, believe me, I don't want to tell people what to do, but the number one thing you can do to help climate change is to stop eating meat. and it, unfortunately, it's real. But if you don't want to stop for your health, then do it twice a week, 3 times a week. There are little things that individuals can do. There are big things that policy can do. And that take me to tell you that if you want your audience to do something about it, they have to vote. They have to go out there and vote and tell their representatives that they want. They have to vote for people that care about climate change. And I don't blame only the politicians. I'm going to tell you something. In 2016, the presidential elections, when you ask the constituents their issues and in an order, I think we have that graph too, the order of importance, environmental was third from bottom to last. Okay, number 1 was economy. Number 2, terrorism. Number 3 was foreign policy, healthcare, and you name them. What people have to understand, and that's why we're here, and that's why VoLo and other organizations, the Clean organization in Miami, we're trying to educate the people to understand that climate change has to be on top of all this because influence the rest of them. So environmental, for example, nearly the most important issue for everybody, the economy, and is in the order of the 10 of trillions of dollars because of all the disasters happening through climate change. When you talk about terrorism, it affects, like I told you, immigration. Immigration is gonna, like the foreign policies are going to change. It affects healthcare. The mosquito is the most deadly animal out there, and it thrives in warm weather, right? So viruses are going to be, disease are going to happen. So if people understood how the truth of how carbon emissions affect the top issues, they would ask their representatives to work towards climate change.
And we can't even begin.
Representatives don't do it because they don't want to answer questions that constituents aren't asking.
Exactly. So they want to run on sort of an idea that whatever is most important to the people is going to get them into the position. And then support, of course, the people funding their their platform, unfortunately. But we can't even begin to touch on how this all will affect food, the food chain, and our food supply. And that's what people don't realize.
I think
we think there's always, genetically modified as an answer. We can grow in hydroponic. But at some point, all of those answers are no longer going to be valid answers if the sun is too hot, there's too much heat,
crops
the water
are being
supply
lost,
is
agriculture, the farmers are the ones that are feeling right now that we have one of our programs is in Nicaragua, is Project Alianza, and we are very in contact with the coffee industry and with the crops, and they are talking about it. I mean, these are people that are not the most educated people out there, and they feel it.
So now when you look at, I was thinking of everything you're saying and putting it together for people listening, which we all want an answer, and obviously we have a few now. I've had people that on the show that are helping with getting rid of plastic straws, which is, you think at first, that's a small thing, but it's not a small thing when everyone's doing it.
Exactly.
You have obviously carpooling, which has been something we've tried to do for a while to get more people to carpool. You have what else? Stop using so much plastic bags, use more reusable bags and things like that. All these things which will contribute in some way, shape, or form. Based on your data, what are some of the recommendations that you can make to our listeners that they can really sort of help affect change?
Well, I think the most important, again, policy is if there are other countries that have done it, we can do it. We have Sweden, for example, is one of the slides that you have on your. They implemented the carbon tax 20 years ago. 20 years ago. It goes back to policy. It goes back to big things. We need new technology. We need policy. But in the chart, it shows the relationship between Sweden's real GDP, the gross domestic product, and the low emissions. So it sees people are afraid that economy is going to be like we're going to be poorer. And if you see the chart in Sweden, you can see how it rapidly increased the GDP of the country when they moved to renewable energy, especially wind and solar.
Yeah.
So wine
wind,
too.
Yeah.
We can
wine,
have some
we need wine. But wind and solar is a big, a big portion.
It's a big portion of
and
that. And
preservation of forest. When was the last time a president worked to preserve a plot of land or forest? Well, as a team, you and your husband make up VoLo.
Yes.
That's where the name comes from. It's your two last names.
Yes.
And
Lopez.
Yes, yeah. And you are doing a great job. And how can people support and become more aware? Obviously, there's a website.
There's
VoLo,
a website.
V as in Victor, OLO.
Foundation.org. So VoLoFoundation.org. Go in there, educate yourself. There is a tab called research. There is news. In the news, we have all the activities coming up. We are having a conference in UCF, October 11, is called the climate correction.
Okay.
And actually, one of the little slogans says, debating climate, the reality of climate change is over. We want answers. We invited people from the industry to study the data and to give us answers, because we are at a point where debating is not anymore. You want me to be blunt? Only people that are paid by the oil company are the deniers. Nobody else. Everybody understands it. Everybody's feeling it. And we have to do something. So you can find the tickets on Eventbrite and go to UCF and listen to the conference. And my hope for you is that when you go to bed tonight, you do it with a new perspective about climate change. And tomorrow when you wake up, you feel empowered to do something about it.
Yes. Thank you.
It's a global problem. We have to fix it globally.
Yes.
And we're all in this together. There's only one planet. My kids, I'm a mother of 6. When I saw the data, I was alarmed. An alarm for my children and the kids of my kids and the future of our planet. I think any mother out there can relate. And we can make little sacrifice. Eat less meat. Pick up don't use the plastic bags. We all have to work together on this.
Well, I think it's vote for VoLo because YOLO. That's a salute to your kids anyway. They say, VoLo, you only live once, YOLO.